going to let Brad, I usually do the intro, but I'm going to let Brad do the intro this week. Take it away, brother Brad.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and take it away then. It's This Week in Charles Bronson, the podcast where one weirdo shares his 35 plus years obsession with the late great action film star. Now, that man's name is Eric Todd. But lately, Eric has assembled a whole family of obsessed Bronson weirdos on Facebook, which includes me, the certified badass Brad Crane. Eric, thanks for letting me do this intro tonight.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy.
We're also joined by teenage heartthrob Danny Gatz, who'll be taking your calls, spinning the wax, and maybe even providing some much-needed balance to our obsession. Welcome, Danny.
Oh, I can only stay down here.
Now, my personal obsession with film icon Charles Bronson is right at the 40-year mark this year, as I discovered him on late night TV in 1984 when I stayed up and watched the original Death Wish with my dad. Wow. And as a 4-decade Bronson fan, I can't tell you how excited I am to introduce tonight's guest on the This Week in Charles Bronson podcast. Now, Bobby, as his friends call him, has been working on films and TV going back to the mid-60s, where he starred on many classics. On television, his encyclopedia of credits range from I Dream of Jeannie and Bonanza to Magnum P.I., The A-Team, and Walker, Texas Ranger, all the way up to Cold Case and Criminal Minds. Now, on the big screen, his numerous credits include Getting Straight with Elliot Gould, Shootout with Gregory Peck, The Todd Killings with Richard Thomas, Black Oak Conspiracy, a personal favorite with Jesse Vint, Platoon Leader with Michael Dudikoff, and of course, the reason we're here tonight, his 3 co-starring roles with Charles Bronson, beginning with Death Wish 2, followed by 10 to Midnight, and even as Jack Murphy's trusted partner, Art Penny, in Murphy's Law. Yeah. Now, on a personal note, it's the role as Art Penny that puts him in the Brad Crane Film Watching Hall of Fame, as I have watched this movie at least 50 times in my life, probably closer to 100. But without further ado, it's my great honor to introduce actor, writer, and director, Mr. Robert F. Lyons. Thanks for joining us tonight, Bobby.
Thank you, Brad.
Skipper Todd is here.
Skipper Todd, oh my gosh.
So Brad, you've seen Murphy's Law more than 10 to Midnight, is that correct?
I've seen it more than 10 to Midnight. Yes, that's Eric. Bobby, when I got into Bronson, you were kind of in the middle of your Bronson time. I kind of got in 84. You'd already done Death Wish 2 and 10 to Midnight, but Murphy's Law was one of those movies when I was like in junior high, getting up into high school, that I watched. Bobby, I watched that movie almost daily. I mean, it was just one of those movies that I can recite every word to. So I love that movie.
And you know, Brad, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bobby, but I think that was the one that next to Death Wish 3 that I probably watched the most as a kid myself. But go ahead, Bobby.
Well, no, I understand. First of all, I wanted to know if that light behind me is burning out anything.
It's not bad right now. It's just the sun.
I'm just trying to see if I could tilt that in a way.
That looks a little better, Bobby.
That looks a little better, yeah.
All right. I just turned the computer.
And don't mind my child. He likes to pop in from time to time.
That's fine. That's good. Hey, hi, man. See, he was waving behind. Right.
I was watching Murphy's Law. I was watching Murphy's Law today. Did you? Your character, it was the first time I ever sat there because I was on my lunch break. It was the first time I ever fast forwarded to see another person than Charles Bronson. And you're pretty much with him the first, not the very first scene, but like the 3 scenes following that.
Well, it's an interesting film that I got because they rewrote it, and I wound up with him, and I wanted him to keep it the way it was, with only a little bit of change in the writing. I caused a whole problem. See, Charlie wanted me to do that. Jill was one of the producers at the time, and they wanted me and somebody else wanted somebody else, which happens sometimes. So they're not going to upset their star too much. And Charlie's, he's just a strong guy. He was what he was. And I was brought in by the director, who is a wonderful man and a wonderful director. And I could tell that somebody said something about me to him, Jay Lee. And he said, this is the script we're going to do. We're going to do this script. There'll be no changes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening to this going on. This is right after he said, hello, I'm in his trailer. I went, uh-oh, somebody's gotten behind me. And I went, okay, that's fine. So we go out, we shoot the first scene, which had to do with walking down a stairway into the subway opening. That was the first scene we shot. And there's a dead girl there. And there's a picture of Charlie and I viewing this. And after the scene, Jay Lee came to me and said, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Like that one scene solved whatever he was told about me. And I went, yeah, there's proof. He said, you'll be fine. Like, what the hell was all that stuff? I've run into that a few times. It just goes on. It's part of what goes on when different people on the production that have a certain say and power, one side will want somebody, somebody else wants somebody else.
Was it a big ego boost for you? It must have been. You're about 20 years, or maybe a little bit more than 20 years younger than Bronson. So did you feel like a kid, like being acknowledged by like by someone that you looked up to? Like for him to be like, hey, Bobby, I wanted you for this. When you hear that he usually isn't that outgoing to his co-stars, like did that mean a lot to you? Was that really cool?
In the very, very beginning, when I did Death Wish 2, it was 10 years later, he wanted me for a film that's, to me, was a wonderful film. And I had met with Charles Winkler. It was called The Mechanic.
Yes.
And I didn't know Charlie at the time, but he wanted me to play the other guy, the kid.
That's awesome. Yeah, that must have
amazing.
Yeah. Do you know what he saw you in that made him want you?
Well, he either saw Todd Killings or he saw Pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
He might have seen Getting Straight, because a lot of people in the business that saw Getting Straight just took to me, really, because there's a 5-minute scene in there that I don't know, it just offered everything that an actor wants. Plus, I'm a wild man anyway when it comes to making exciting choices.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of energy. And I just go. I mean, I get an opportunity to go, I go. And my teaching was like, get everything you can.
Mm-hmm.
See, get everything in there you can get. And that's sort of my operating procedure. And it was one of those scenes, was almost 5 minutes long. I just tore it apart with Elliot. And
my mom had a big crush on Elliot Gould. I remember that.
Yeah, he was terrific to work with. All my scenes are with Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great scene. I know exactly what scene you're talking about, Bobby. I watched the movie and it's an amazing scene.
Well, there's a lot of stories to it, but within Hollywood, George Kennedy, he had won an Oscar. And we were the same agency. He did a series called The Sarge. It went on for 1 year. He's a priest that becomes a police officer, or an officer became a priest. I forget which. But somebody said, oh, you'll like working with him. I got a guest star on this show. You'll like him. He's like a big bear, and this and that. So he said, come on down, talk to meet him down there at the car. They were shooting up on a hill and the car was way down. So I jumped down there and I walked up and I said, hi, Robert Lyons. He went, I know who you are. And I went, where's the big sweet teddy bear? And I went, oh, okay. And then he looked at me and he said, why didn't you get an Oscar for Getting Straight? No, he's an Oscar winner. I said, what? And he looked at me and said, you should have gotten an Oscar. He said, George Kennedy. And it just melted my heart. I mean, I went,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Our past guest, Paul Talbot, who interviewed you for the Bronson's Loose Again book,
Yeah,
mentioned that he says that you should have received an Oscar nomination. He doesn't say which film in that when he says it, but I mean, I believe that's the one he's talking about. I'm pretty sure.
it's all very nice, but you see, what you don't know as a young person in this business, there's there's more promotion that goes into one of those things than you
Mhm.
realize.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's not just like by accident.
right.
Believe me, people put
Mhm.
up a lot of money, the studio puts up money, but if you don't have somebody that's running it for you, you get what I'm saying? You get like
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
young person.
somebody almost has to court the Oscars
There you
almost.
go. There you go.
Take Oscar out and buy him
Well,
dinner, and
I did a film called Ceasefire with Don Johnson. It was,
Mhm.
I watched that yesterday.
did you?
Yeah, oh, listen, I do my research, Bobby.
Well,
I wish I could have watched more of your films, but
well, you can.
oh, I will. Trust me, I will. Like, I don't when we have people on, I make sure I watch something that they were in not outside of Bronson or something they directed outside of Bronson or I mean, and Ceasefire, you play a fun character in that. You often play fun. Like even Murphy's Law, you're kind of a fun like
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
yeah. You
Anyway,
often play like a fun, energetic type of guy.
well, the whole thing on Oscar talk, it's like, I don't know. After a while, it's like, what's the big deal? I love to work. Uh,
Hmm.
that would be nice. I really don't care. It's not something where in my heart, I'm going to die if I never get one. I'm not
Right.
the kind of
Well,
person. I'd
you
rather
won an
work.
Oscar by having a 50-year career, the way I see it.
Right.
No, it's this that's good talk. It's like fun, but and the events of them are they're fun because you meet a lot of wonderful people. There's a lot of wonderful people in this business. I gotta tell you.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we know that from doing this show. Like uh I have to tell you, a young man, well, he's not that young anymore, but Jesse Dabson from Platoon Leader says hi. He was on our show.
Yeah,
I texted him, I said, hey, your old buddy from Platoon Leader is going to be on tonight. He said, tell him I said hi. But we've seen that from doing this show. Like we haven't had any jerks. We did have a guy that didn't like Charles Bronson and talked very badly about him, but we've had nothing but gracious, really interesting people on here.
I
Um,
can't. Charlie's not a man of many words. Let me tell you.
right. Was he a friend of yours? A personal friend, would you say?
He became because got invites to go to his house at parties,
Hmm.
what have you, and Jill. And uh, the funny thing is, I met the director. Excuse me, I met the director. We didn't get along. It's one of the few times that I didn't get along with somebody. Was the director?
Michael
And
Winner?
yeah, he's not
Yeah.
a. We just didn't get along, and I had met Chardoff Winkler for the mechanic, and they wanted me, and they knew my work, and Charlie wanted me and didn't know me. It's just that we had the same PR guy at the time, and I knew from him that Charlie had said, "This kid, I want him to use Bobby Lyons. Get that kid, Robert F Lyons." And I went, "Wow, I've never met him," so I wasn't quite sure what it was he had seen in me that made him so I'm leading up to what happened. So when I met Winter, Todd Killings had come out, and I had gotten very strong reviews in New York, of all places. So when he came in the door to meet me, late 20 minutes, which ticked me off, he went, "Oh, yes." He's very British, by the way. "Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Yes, yes. You're the one with the reviews." And I went, "Uh-oh." My first urge was get up and say thank you for the interview and leave. And I'm surprised I didn't do that because that's usually, well, I went, well, this is going to go nowhere. The hell with it. And by leaving, sometimes they go, no, 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 look. And, we just didn't get along. So then I get a call, go up for Death Wish too. I said, it's the same guy. I said, 10 years later, I said, I don't want anything to do with this guy. He's insulting. He acts like he's, and they said, no, take the interview. I said, listen, I don't want trouble with this man. I really don't. He said, take the interview. All right. So I took the interview. And Here he is in a room talking to another man who was a manager on an earlier film I did. And he went, "You're up for this?" He said, "Let me talk to
Michael Winter.
and I went, "Oh no, that's just when people come on to him and tell him do this, he just has to go the opposite way because I'm who I am." So I laughed. So I went, "Okay, this will be funny." So I wait in this room, and finally he comes through the door and he says, "All right, who's this? Who's this?" I'm going, he knows who it is. He just talked to the guy. Anyway, this and that. And he's sitting down. "What's your picture?" And he's very British and he's talking, and then he's looking at me, and I thought he was making notes. And this is a story. I don't know if anyone's ever going to believe me. I've told it before, but he's looking at me, and I thought he was trying to get the color of my eyes. And I went green. And he went, "Green? Green? What's green?" And I blew it. I said, "My hair." Thinking he'd say, "Get out of here." And I'd say, "Up yours and go." Except he settled down. He said, "Now, when you get on the set and you're working with Charlie, you're 5'9", so you can't be over 5'9". I said, "Wait a minute, what just happened here?" I just yelled at him, and he's giving me the part. I mean, it's like I've seen everything now that you can blow it and still get the part. I mean, it's like you're amazed at the adventures you're on and the turns they take that you could not predict.
Yeah, well, knowing what I know about Michael Winter, he probably respected you busting his chops a little bit. Like, I feel like Michael Winter he is arrogant, but I think a lot of it is it's like he gets a kick out of like pissing people off. Like the last 10 years of his life, he just did these restaurant reviews called Winter's Dinners, and he just trashed restaurants. Like he didn't. I don't think he gave one restaurant a good review. Like he went from directing these like big Hollywood movies to like I'm gonna just spend the rest of my life.
Well, he did some pretty good films, man.
Oh yeah, he did some
He
great
sure
movies.
did.
He did the original Death Wish and The Mechanic, like you said, which I could see you in that. I'm a big Jan Michael Vincent fan, and that character is huge. But after seeing you in Todd Killings, I could see you playing that part in
I can
Mechanic.
too.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, then I had to do looping on Death Wish 2, and I went, "Oh no, here we go." And he was so charming to me because then I didn't tell you that I got fired.
Mm-hmm. I read that, but yes, tell the story. I like this story.
Well, no, it was like what he would do that I just thought he I don't know, he just did things that were unnecessary and a little bit mean. In other words, they were shooting at I think Santa Monica, that's which is like miles away, and let's say the set call was 8 o'clock. Okay, now the graveyard scene where there was a burial thing is like at 11, but he wants everyone to be at their location at 8. So you're going to sit there for 2 or 3 hours doing nothing. And I was the first one to get to the graveyard where we were doing a graveyard scene, which I'm not in now, by the way. And it wasn't written in, but he came to me and said, "Oh, Robert, you should be there." And I went, "Yeah, I thought so, so I'll be there." And I got there. And AD was there. So where the hell is everyone? He said, "They're down at the pier or something." For Christ's sake. I went off, I had breakfast, drove back, they're still not there. I drove up to this graveyard, I had a hill, I parked the car and I went to sleep. Next thing you know, somebody's knocking on, "We need you down there." And I wake up and I had my funereal clothes in the trunk. I'm listening to him. He says, where is that actor?" And I went, 5 minutes. He said, "He'll be there 5." He says, "I can't wait for him. Fire him, and I'm not paying him for the day." And that's it. I got in the car and I drove down there, and I yelled at him. I said, "Get your AD over here. I was here at 8. You're signing me out. And you're paying me for the day." He said, "Well, they told me." I said, "I don't give a damn." We got into an argument. Now Charlie's watching this. I went over and I apologized because Charlie really liked me. The first thing he said to me when I did Death Wish 2. He came down the set and he looked at me. The first thing he said to me, he says, 10 years, you look the same in 10 years, you haven't changed. He said, welcome to the set. I'm so glad you're here. And I said, thank you. I was just, back to what you were talking about earlier. He was just wonderful to me. And I thought he liked something in my work. And we became friends. Now, close? No. I don't know that you get close to Charlie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of the story we get from I think the closest person to him probably was Jan Gann Boyd, a young actress. But I think because she hit it off with Jill pretty much, but
I hit it off with her. She was terrific on my
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people seemed like she softened him up quite a bit for some people. I wonder too, because I never really thought of Bronson or heard of Bronson as being much of a film watcher or even really being that into movies. And I wonder if there's something about he knew about you and your character that he liked, because it's very rare. That's a very rare to hear that he was like, hey, I like this guy. I want this guy. I want
I
this
know
kid.
he liked that Bobby was 5'9". I was watching Getting Straight myself, Bobby, and of course I don't know how tall Elliot Gould is, but he's quite a bit taller than you. And when I was watching that, I thought, I was actually talking to my wife about it, and I said, I can see how him and Charles Bronson, because when I think you mentioned that scene where y'all were walking down the stairwell in Murphy's Law, y'all seemed about the same height in that scene. I love that scene. And, I love how Bronson picks up, at the end, you see that little body, he picks up the little necklace and then, Anthony Alberto Vincenzo, and then y'all go off and start trying to solve the crime together. But I see you and Bronson about the same height, and I know that was important to him.
Well, I never, that was what Michael had said to me. I never knew that he had anything on it or what have you. It's just one of those things that, sometimes people meet people and they just like it. There's no answer to it or what. And Charlie can say so much with just a look.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was no longer smoking. When I came on one set or something, and then I'd smoked my head off. And he just stood there and looked at me. And I got everything without a word being said.
Now, let me ask you this question, Bobby. Has anybody ever told you when you were young, because I was watching that movie Pendulum with George Papard, and of course you're pretty freaking bad in that. You're a bad guy in that. But does anybody ever told you when you were young and clean cut, like in a movie like that you kind of look like a young Jack Nicholson? Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
Okay, because I made a note to myself when I was watching that you have a similar look to a young Jack Nicholson. And how cool would that have been to see you in The Mechanic? Young and clean cut with Charles Bronson looking like a young Jack Nicholson.
Well, I don't know. You got to understand, lighting does an awful lot to change, and I look different in every role I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're talking about. I've been hit with it before. I knew Jack, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we were at the actor studio together. He had done one of the motorcycle movies that he had been in. I think with Richard Rush, who did
Getting Straight. Yeah.
He did a few of those biker movies.
Yeah, I don't listen. What Jack did that I gotta tell you, real quick, was that he understood the business side. Somehow he was an intelligent guy, and I had no interest what these guys knew. I thought they must know all this stuff. I find out they don't know much.
He got bad reviews early on too for his acting.
Oh, God.
He got some really bad, and he wound up becoming a super huge star.
Well, he just became himself. I mean, there was a funny point when I was up for a motorcycle movie, and the guy said, "Well, you haven't really done a movie yet." I went, "No, I know, but I'm ready. I've done some TV shows, blah blah blah." He said, "Well, if you knew somebody with a name," I said, "Well, how about Jack Nicholson?" He said, "Do you know him?" I said, "Well, I don't know him well, but I know him from the studio. He said, well, if you could bring in someone like that, we might be able to help you get us part, you know. So I called Jack and he said, I'll meet you. So we both drove VWs at the time. And we met in a place in Hollywood, met with the guy, and I was so impressed with, he knew all the dialogue above the line, below the line. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about, but he was well versed on it, knew about it. I couldn't talk that stuff. He was talking about production and what costs were. He knew that kind of stuff. And I was like, geez, you know, and his
I think he learned a lot of that working with Roger Corman, I believe.
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, but the point is that he made a point to grasp it, because somehow you can get in and talk to people in a different way. And now you know what these people know. You know how to talk to them. So you have a greater reality on who they are and what they do. I often wondered why Suits, when they came down on a set, they were so serious. It's because they don't know what the hell's going on.
That's right.
Right.
They don't. They really don't know. They're not interested. They're interested in a good product, but you know, I mean, Pendulum was my first film. Billy Gordon was an old-time casting director. He would not see me. He would not see me. And I had a new agent at the time. I had left William Morris. And my agents kept saying, I've got the guy, Billy. He said, no, he's not right. He's not. And this went on and on. They went to New York. They couldn't get the guy. They came back. And finally, my agent said, Billy, I've got the guy. He said, Ford, send him over. So I well prepared it. And I knew I was ready to do something. And sure enough, I walk in the door, I lay out a scene I knew, and I just burned it. And everyone was very quiet in the room when I finished. And I went, what the hell is this? This is different. And they're looking at each other and looking around. And I went, And then Billy went, okay, Robert, thank you for coming in. Da, 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 da. And I left and I went, I told Mary, I said, something's weird. I don't know. I said, I thought I really banged it. He gets a call. He says, you got the part. And Billy says, he wants you to come in to sign that contract. I went, okay. So I went, he said, sit down, kid. I want to tell you something. Says, he told me the whole business in one sentence. He said, when Chris, and he pointed to this kid who was a year younger than me, and he said, he kept calling. And he said, I was shooting you down, not because I didn't like you. He said, I thought you were somebody else. And he called me and he wore me down. And I'm looking, and that's what he was saying to me. That's the whole business. Right. He wore me down until I opened my eyes. I cannot tell you how many times people thought I was somebody else, and I wound up with the role. And they started by saying, no way.
Well, you were such a creep in that movie. There's a couple scenes in that movie. There's this scene where you're interacting with a secretary, and you just
that's the scene I think
such creepiness. It's amazing what you're able to do in those roles.
That scene is the one that I auditioned.
Well, it's an amazing scene.
And then you know what they did? And as actors who were beginning, they asked me, would I come in and read with the girls who were up for the role of the secretary? And Marge DJ is the one that wound up with it. And when we're in the room, I mean, you know, I'm acting. That's all I ever cared about. I was one of those guys that, you know, and I'm watching, and the girls come in, and they're so nervous. And I felt so bad for them. And Marge came in and sat down, and she just did her thing. And she left. I said, boy, she was really talking to me. I got into it, and they went, hold it, Bob. No. And I went, okay. But boy, she knows what she wound up with the part.
Well, you were great in that scene. I'm telling you, you were a creepy guy in that scene, and it came off.
Well, it was set up pretty good. But, you know, Stanley Niss was the writer-producer. He was very good. I gave him ideas, and he did them. There's a scene where I go into a bathroom and throw paper in. That's not it. I said, boy, the whole thing, I said, it's too bad there isn't a bathroom scene. He said, why? I said, because he says, don't throw the paper. I said, there's a chance for me to show what a arrogance, snidey little creep guy. He went,
Mhm.
I've got wall, I can build a bathroom. You want to do that? I said, yes. He said, this. He said, all right, we'll shoot it. And sure enough, it's in the movie. Last scene where I'm supposed to run out a door. I said, no, he'd be crazy. He'd want to smash stuff and go out a window. He said, you want to do that? I said,
Yeah.
He said, well, I got to have a stuntman do it. I said, no, let me do it. I'm cool with that stuff. He said, no, we'll do it, but I got to get a stuntman. I'm like, okay. And when you're shooting something, you go, well, go ahead and do it. And I went, nah, they're getting so I should have. I wanted to do my own thing. I've done it anyway. And when you're young, that you think you can do anything, you know.
Yeah.
You don't really get hurt. Yeah.
Robert, are you aware that the Todd Killings, right? The film The Todd Killings inspired a punk rock song by a Los Angeles band called the Angry Samoans?
No, I had no idea.
Yes, there is. It's about a 30-second. Are you familiar with punk rock? It's kind of fast but it's about a 30-second long song. It's Skipper Todd kills girls. His idea of killing time. Skipper Todd kills girls. It's killing time. Todd Killings. Is that wild? I knew that song for like 10 years before I realized that that was a movie.
I didn't know. Well, you know, it was a real guy. It was about a real guy.
Yeah, you told me that on the phone. Tell us some more about that. That's a really interesting role. Did you get, before you tell us about it, like, did you get good reviews for that movie? Like, I think it was a pretty hip film. It was very of its time.
I got great reviews in New York from
Mhm.
the toughest, Judith Christ at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she is a tough one.
She went, this is chilling. This and that.
Mhm.
Listen, I've had people come to me. I had a neighbor that saw it and he said, this movie scared the blah, blah, blah. You know, I got to watch my time. Right.
You were the naked killer before the naked killer in 10 to Midnight.
I got to tell you, boy, yeah. I mean, I did that thing, that little outrageous number, and we did it in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And thank Belinda. Somebody just called me to do something about moving on, which was a TV show that I did.
With Claude Akins.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sheriff
I've seen
Lobo?
that.
Pardon? What?
Sheriff Lobo.
Yeah.
Claude Akins.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, Belinda, who was in it, apparently she did one of those episodes, and she said, "Oh," I said, "you got to say hello to her for me because I haven't seen her in 50 years." You know, and, so that was interesting because I love her. She stuck to her principles, and she wouldn't do nudity. And nobody came to her defense. The studio, her agents, and Barry kept on her to do it nude, do it nude. She wouldn't do it. So on the day we shot that scene, the rape scene, she brought her father to the set. So that ended the problem.
Yeah, do a nude scene with your dad in the room. That'll work.
Right.
Well, but she wouldn't do the nudity. She wouldn't show her breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, good for you, babe.
Yes. Yeah.
But you had no problem with it.
I didn't have any problem with it.
No, you're like, check this out, Dad.
Well, I don't know. My mom and dad were such wonderful people. I mean, they backed me up as a teenager, you know, because I was a terrible student. Academia was not my major suit, you know, and I always knew what I wanted to do. People say, well, what made you decide? I said, I didn't. I just knew. And they go, what? I said, yeah, I had a goal and I knew it. I had a purpose. And that's
Hey, Bobby, do you mind if I ask you a question about Charles Bronson movies you were in?
Yeah.
You know, you were in 10 to Midnight, and then a few years later, you were in Murphy's Law. And I read where they were trying to, I think, I agree with you. I think it was a kind of a cheap connection between 10 to Midnight where they were trying to use that strange machine, you know, that Warren Stacy used. It was like sexual release type machine. And I think they were trying to fit that into Murphy's Law as well. And I think you kind of helped keep that from happening. Do you mind talking about that? Because I agreed 100% with what you did.
Well, that's an amazing story. That's twice I've gotten things taken out of movies, twice. But that one was so disgusting, was that Murphy is now running from the law, and he is the law. And I'm his partner. You'll see how what I used to get that thing removed. I just was terrified. Not terrified, I was disgusted. And my mom's got to see this stuff. I'll tell you a story in a minute. The funniest thing my mother ever said. You'll get a kick out of it. I got to the set and I figured out what I was going to do, and I laid it on Charlie, and he didn't know it. I might have said something to him like, "This is terrible," but there was the producers and the writer, director, and I said, "Guys, I got to tell you something." I said, "Charlie's character is the lead in the movie, and he trusts me. He comes here to trust me, and he opens the drawer and finds this thing, this perversion." I said, and there's no follow-up or anything, and he doesn't say anything to me. And I says, "You think that that's a nice thing? He finds out his partner that he trusts would be doing something like this?"
Was it supposed to be like a joke, like a humorous thing or something? Like a callback, like just like a callback to
do I look
Midnight?
like a guy that needs something like that? And Charlie is just watching me go to work, and they're nodding, going, "Yeah, well." And Charlie just had as I recall, like a slight grin on his face, watching me work it out. And they went, yeah, I don't think we need it. Do we need it? No, it doesn't really do anything because I put it on Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie's just smiling away. And then went, "Okay, let's take it out. We don't need it." Yeah, let's take it out because it's a shock value in it. And the thing is gone. But that's how I did it. I didn't lay it on Charlie. I just said, I don't think his character would. But I said, "There's no follow-up scene, fellas. There's nothing."
Yeah.
He now knows his partner's a pervert, a deviant. I mean,
I think it was meant to be a joke and a callback to 10 a minute, because I also read that there was a couple other jokes in the movie that they cut out. Like corny, almost like a scene where some guys are watching, where the security guards are watching a Charles Bronson movie, and they actually say, "Oh, I love that Charles Bronson when he kicks guys." You know what I mean? They try to make it almost like put like Naked Gun type humor in there. You know what I mean?
No, listen. It just says this guy's a freak. It's what.
Yeah.
There was no point. There was no reason for it.
No, that's my point. It just has a one moment shock.
Right.
That makes the character look like a perverted idiot.
Yeah.
Well, I take those movies seriously. I'm just going to say I take those movies seriously. When I was in junior high and high school watching those movies, I took them seriously, and I would not have appreciated that as a joke. I mean, that would have taken me out of what I'm really interested in, is this good cop story where Bronson's going back to his partner. His partner's going to help him solve the mystery. And then this crap, I would have not liked that at all. I'm going to be honest with you.
That my character would have ruined any feeling you had for my character at all.
Right. It might have made you think that you're supposed to, like, it might have made you think like, "Oh, am I supposed to think that this guy has something to do with?" Now I'm thinking about the other movie, and I'm thinking, is there a connection? But it's just a bad joke that they were trying to do.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's stupid. I'm glad you talked him out of that, Bobby. Thank you. Is it okay if we call you Bobby?
Yeah, that everybody does. Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, do you mind if I ask you a question about, so you worked in 3 Bronson films. So after Death Wish 2, did Bronson help you get the other films, or was it just because you did a good job they brought you in? Or how were you connected to Bronson for those 3 or 4 years that y'all worked together?
Well, I know he liked me. He had a big party at his house, and Jill liked me as well. And I know she fought for me. They just they just did. God, they were so in love. They were. I mean, that's the only time you saw him really kind of melt down, because when he's on the set, boy, if there was a strange character around, he went, "You out." That's it. Especially if the kids were around. No, he knew who he was, and he knew he could draw in the freaks of the planet, because people find out that actors are working names, and they'll go there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had freaky stuff happen to me, so I know, and I never had the visible thing that a Bronson had, but I've had enough where I can see where it could get freaky. He, how I got 10 to midnight, I don't recall, but I do know that Jill and he demanded that I do
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, that's in Paul Talbot's book. I gotta, give Paul Talbot credit, because a lot of the things that we learn about Bronson and you and are come through his books. But yeah, that was in his book that Bronson demanded you. They wanted somebody else, which you mentioned earlier. And I don't remember who it was or if they even said who it was in the book. But Bronson was like, "No, I want Bobby." And anyway, I like about you, Bob, is you put on a jacket, and a tie, and then you all of a sudden you're a middle-aged cop. But like in the same era, not too many years before or after that, I think it was like the year before you did Ceasefire. You look like a kid. Like you just like, what I mean? Like you could play a 25-year-old guy one day and play a 40-year-old cop like the next. Like, and you didn't look old in Murphy's Law, but they did something to you with the conservative jacket and the tie, and you have a beard with gray in it in Ceasefire, but you play this kind of like free spirit, and you almost and you're like a kid.
Well,
So
yeah.
I think that's neat about you. Like you like you could, I don't know, you can play all. You don't look, like you said earlier, you don't look the same in any of your movies. Like you look
No, I
different in
don't.
all of them.
I got Brian Hickox was a TV producer, used me twice in two roles that I really liked. Was a part I got that I replaced an actor up in, they were shooting up in Vancouver, Scene of the Crime. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it's a wonderful, for me, it was a wonderful showpiece. And he did another one where the good cops, bad cops, they changed the title. So the cops are the bad guys. I don't know. And it was based on a real robbery that took place in Memorial Day. Ray Sharkey was the lead guy. And I had a hell of a cast. Steve Railsback, myself. Just George Kennedy was in it. I'd worked with him before. It just had a lot of actors, good cast. And that film also, I really enjoy. Good work, good stuff to do, good stuff to really like chew on and break out. But Brian is running my demo reel, and he would say to me, "Who's this?" I said, "What the hell are you talking about? It's my demo reel, Brian." And then a couple shots later, it had 13 different scenes. He said, "Who's this?" I said, "For Christ's sake, it's mine." Really, that's your problem. They think this is 13 guys. Like, that's not funny. They think that's 13 guys. No, put them all in the same one. I don't know. That was what acting was. It was, change who you are.
Bobby, after Murphy's Law, of course, Bronson did canon movies all the way to the end of the decade, and I know you did your own. I've watched Platoon Leader several times over the years. Watched it again today just because I wanted to.
Did you?
But I'm just curious. I would have loved to have seen you work with Bronson even more. Was there any reason you didn't work with him after '86? He did several more movies, or was there just not a role that you felt fit you at that time? Or
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I was. I lost touch. When Jill, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think his life changed. I mean,
Uh-huh.
they were so crazy about one another. He was a different guy when she was there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, after Murphy's Law, I mean, Assassination, Messenger of Death, Kinjatai, oh, Death Wish 4, she was really sick that whole time.
She was.
So, I
Not-
mean, he might not have been thinking about anybody, you know what I mean? What would you
Well,
like to have seen him in though, Brad? Do you have a character that
Well, one thing I was thinking about was, Messenger of Death was a movie that um, it had a guy named Jeff Corey in it, and I know Robert, I know you had a history with Jeff Corey, and he
so
was in both Shootout, and he was also in Getting Straight. I'd have loved to have seen you in that movie because I'd have Bronson, I'd have Jeff Corey, and I'd have Robert F Lyons in the same movie. I'd have loved to have seen you somehow fit into there.
Gene Davis pops up in that too?
That's right. Gene Davis from 10 to Midnight's in that as well.
that's right. Yeah. But his brother was in a great film.
Mhm.
Uh,
Midnight
Oh, yeah,
Express.
Midnight Express, yeah.
That's right.
unbelievable. I went up to that film and I didn't get it.
Oh, you went out for Midnight Express?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some movies that you would have loved to have been in, Bobby? I know we've talked about Mechanic. I think you would have enjoyed being in that, and Midnight Express. Were there any other movies? Because you're such a good actor and you've had so many good roles. Or are there other movies that you would have liked to have been in that you missed out on?
Yeah, there's one that
Debbie Does Dallas.
well, it's because I even screen tested and I didn't like the screen test. I didn't like to because I just didn't. It wound up when you screen test. Now they can have you or not have you. I don't know. It's a very funny thing. One quick story, and then I'll tell you the film. I was in Beverly Hills one day and I saw this green shirt in a store. And I went, I gotta have that shirt. And I go in, I said, you get me that my size. He went, okay. And he went back, came back, and he said, we don't have it, we're out of it. I said, what? He said, but look at all these other shirts. I said, they're beautiful, but I want the green one. So we looked at the mannequin and the size, it wasn't there. And I went, I gotta have that shirt. All right, I leave the store, I didn't buy the other one. And then at the same time, I'm getting calls, is he available? But I didn't get the job. And is he available? And I said, wait a minute. What is this available? Well, what it is for a TV show, they think of 3 actors they can have and they call and they see if they're all available. And then they wind up taking one. And I went, okay, let me tell you. I said this to my agent. She went nuts. I said, the next agent that calls that says, is he available, rather than hiring me, tell him no. A green shirt them. I'm telling you, I can't do that. I said, you have to do it. Green shirt them. And I told him the story about the green. She said, oh my. Said, they'll take the one they can't have. She gets a call a week later, called me on the phone. She said, but don't he just call me? She said, is he available? And I said, I don't think so. She said, oh my God, if you make him available, I'll take him. I said, I told you, you green shirt these guys. They'll take the one they can't have. Because that's the one they go, wait a minute, why not?
Right.
He's not available. Whoa, why? But he's available. Who gives a damn? I'm telling you. And we got the job. It was for the FBI. I did 3 of those.
Yeah, so I noticed you did 3 episodes of that.
Right. So I became unavailable and got the job. So we have the routine called the green shirt deal. You always get the one you can't have.
I need to remember that. I think that might work at the accounting office every now and then.
It'll work anywhere in life.
Bobby,
Anyway.
Brad is a big fan. Brad is a big fan of Black Oak Conspiracy and Jesse Lee Vince. We're all no, but we want to, and he said he would do the show, even though he's never worked with Charles Bronson. He's a really cool guy, and he's really
Jesse.
Like he talks. Yeah, he always talks to his fans on the Facebook and all that.
He's a dear friend of mine.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's how
we know. That's why we're bringing it up.
Bobby. That's how I met you. That's how I found you on social media.
Oh,
Is
okay.
I'm friends with Jesse on Facebook, and I saw you and him talking back and forth about
Right.
Black Oak Conspiracy.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gave me a
And
dig.
then you mentioned something about somehow you mentioned something about working with Bronson, or you somehow you knew we did this show, and we have been trying to get you for years. I even have another phone number in my phone somebody gave me, but I I don't think it's yours. Like, and I tried DMing you on the Facebook. And then when you responded to us just in a chat, I think it was a Jesse Lee Vint.
Yes.
It was in the feed of Jesse's thing. We were like, holy, Brad's like, did you see this? I was like, holy shit. Bobby Lyons is gonna do the show. We'll do the show. Holy shit.
You have to realize, Bobby, when you're a Charles Bronson fan, like me and Eric both discovered Bronson in the 80s
Mhm.
when you were so prevalent in his filmography. So you were like one of our anybody connected to Bronson in the 80s was a hero of ours. So you became a hero of ours just simply by working with Bronson in the 80s.
That's funny. Thank you. That's very complimentary. I appreciate that, really. You know, I felt proud that he thought so highly of my work and wanted me. I was, you know,
Yeah.
it's nice when you got friends like that in the business anyway.
You know, Murphy's Law has so many connections to this show. So Bert Kearns, who's been on the show twice, he writes biographies of Hollywood people and stuff like and other things. He's just a great writer, a great journalist. He wrote a book about Lawrence Tierney, the legendary classic actor who has a very small part in Murphy's Law. And he also is good friends and worked in tabloid television with Chris DeRose, who is the guy that Bronson blows away in the airport, Tony Vincenzo. And I think he said if I reach out to Chris DeRose, they probably get him. And Angel Tompkins just reached out to us the other night. So so we have a lot of connections that we could talk to from that film
Right.
in a way,
Yes,
if we could get them.
you want to get Jesse?
Yes, Brad already talked to him, and we're gonna.
Me and Jesse are friends on Facebook, um, and I will say this, you know, the movie Black Oak Conspiracy, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping around here a little bit, but the movie Black Oak Conspiracy is a movie that you know, Bobby, I'm obsessed with movies. I have been since I was in a teenager. The Black Oak Conspiracy was a new movie to me that I just found out about 2 years ago. And Bobby, I'm going to tell you, that's a really good 70s, like kind of a country boy action movie. And, you know, Bobby, I don't know what it is about you, but you're good at playing bad guys, and you're a pretty bad guy in that movie too. Tell us a little bit more about your experience with Jesse and with that movie, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, they were he and his brothers, uh, Bill and Alan. Um,
Alan worked with Bronson,
yeah.
right?
Um, we were all at the actor studio together. Anyway, learning acting, blah blah blah. And I was to do a movie called The Color of Evening. That there's only 4 characters, and because of Pendulum, the director saw me, and I got the part of the young guy, which was a hell of a role of an artist, and he's from Oklahoma. So I asked around. They said, "Well, go talk to the Vint boys. They have accents." So I called them up and said, "I've got to hang around with you guys for a couple of days." Yeah, come on over. So you know what we did? Here we are, 4 guys. We would make model airplanes and put engines on them and fly them around and knock each other out of the air. These engines. Can you believe it? We got such kicks out of that, laughing so hard, right? Spending all that time balsam wood, putting an engine, getting it started, and then knocking each other. We actually did that, and loved it. We became good friends. And just we actually went up for we walked in on an office once, the 4 of us as brothers. see if we couldn't get this part. We didn't get it, but I think they were appreciated that we came in. So it was just fun. And I knew Alan and Bill, and they're gone. You know, they're gone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew Alan had passed away. I didn't know Bill.
Alan was in Breakout with
He
Charles
was in
Bronson.
Breakout with Bronson.
Yeah, well, he did the thing, Needle Park or something.
Panic in Needle Park?
He did a hell of a job. He
That's
played-
a movie that I want to see really bad. It's a movie that comes up a lot.
I think it's Al's first film.
Yeah.
I think
Pacino, yeah. It was, and it wasn't it a Christ, what's that director's name?
I don't know.
I did all the New York stuff. And I'm probably, maybe if I'm wrong, I'm gonna feel stupid, but
Not
Dog
12
Day,
Angry
Dog
Men.
Day Afternoon.
Student Sidney Lumet.
Sidney Lumet. Isn't
Yeah.
Panic in Needle Park a Lumet movie?
I didn't know if he did that.
I thought it was. I
That's
hope
either-
I'm right because I'm doing a podcast about movies. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna look like an
I'm about
idiot.
to I'm about to double check you, Eric.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
checking
Must
myself.
have been one of his first, but he was a hell of a director.
Oh yes, yes, he is.
I mean, 12
Jerry
Angry
Schatzberg did
Yeah.
Panic in Needle Park.
Jerry Schatzberg. All right.
That's right.
Well,
Al
it come-
Pacino.
well, because of Al Pacino, it comes up in
Yeah.
discussion with a lot of them. So whatever.
No, Sidney.
It's
I'm
okay,
a fail.
Aaron.
I'm a failure.
It's okay, Eric.
He did 12 Angry Men, which is a classic. People to shoot
Mhm.
12 guys in one room and make it exciting. Are you kidding? One set
Right.
and make it work.
That's it. That
Amazing.
is a great movie.
These
I've
guys came out of
watched
TV.
that in school. They made us watch it in school.
Well, they came out of a different period. You know, when TV was just getting started. When I was a kid, we didn't have one until I was 10 years old, and then there was only one station in our city.
That's
Right.
right.
And if you went to New York, you had 3 channels.
Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up again?
Albany, New York.
Oh wow, my aunt and uncle lived
The
in
capital-
Rochester for a while.
Yeah, only one.
that
Well,
way.
Rochester's way north of Albany, but
Yeah.
Albany's 150 miles north of New York City. And I had relatives down there, so.
When I was a
Right.
kid, we had the 3 channels: ABC, NBC, CBS, and then we had the 2 UHF or 3 UHF channels. There was, the 2 good ones, and there was a real cheap one that played all the cartoons and everything, and the old Western serials. And I feel like I got such an education, and I think that's why I still love older movies. Like it's just they speak to me in old TV shows and stuff. But then when cable came around, for some weird reason, my cable company here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, some reason we got New York and Philly channels. So I had all the UHF channels in New York. So they always had Bronson weeks on the UHF channels. So I had channel 9 and 11 out of New York.
Wow.
So I had 2 different horror movie hosts. I had one here in Philly, and then channel 9 used to play Morgus the Magnificent out of New Orleans, even though it was a New York channel. Oh man, those were the days. And then the more channels that came along, the less entertainment you could find. Do you know what I mean? Then they realized they could make money late at night with infomercials. And at first, infomercials were funny and they were entertaining. And then they became not entertaining. And, it's sad. Like I learned so much about movies and film and history and everything when there was only 4 or 5 channels because you
Yeah.
had to watch. I
Oh.
wanted to see horror movies. I had to watch the old Universal monsters as told they were playing. And those movies were fucking from the 30s or something.
Well, I always liked it when there were only 3 channels because if the business watched the business, they would watch the best shows. So if you got a guest star on it,
Right.
everybody knew who you were. Anyway, I think we were talking about ceasefire, and I didn't finish
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
the thing on it. Now I forgot what the hell. Something you had asked me, Brad. Something about ceasefire.
I think I was asking about Black Oak Conspiracy, about working with Jesse.
No, I thought there was something.
Well,
And
I was
Eric had
talking-
mentioned ceasefire.
I was
earlier.
talking about ceasefire. I was saying how you played kind of a young, kind of like free
Oh,
spirit,
yeah, but the
just out of Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was that making him that way because he was the guy that Don's character is supposed to look up to because he looks like he's he's in control, and then he winds up offing himself.
Mhm.
That's what it was, and that's why I went in that direction, to make him, fun and loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was Don Johnson to work with?
Let's talk about something else.
Ah,
Let's move on, Eric.
oh boy. Oh, we got some heat.
No, I shouldn't have said that, but
No, it's all right. Listen,
Hey,
everybody.
Bobby, do you mind if I ask you about the movie Shootout?
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Gregory Peck going back, for years. I loved his westerns, and you're, hey, Bobby, I hate to keep bringing it up, but you're another bad guy in this. Tell me what it's like working with another legend like Gregory Peck.
Well, it was sensational, I must say, but I just, my work in it is not my work. That's how I feel about that film. Working with Hathaway, I didn't know what the hell he was saying. In fact, the first scene that we shot for the whole movie was with Jeff Corey in his saloon.
That's right. I remember that scene.
All right. Well, that was the first day of shooting, which was on the Universal lot. And I was doing my usual stuff, and he started yelling, "Energy, kid, energy." I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Energy is, you want behavior, you want me to move? Energy, yeah. I don't know what the hell is he talking about. So I thought maybe he's deaf. I started talking a little louder and then louder, and to the point where I was talking where I wasn't real anymore, to my own acting. And he came down and he acted out a scene on all the players. Peck, myself, John Davis Chandler, who was a friend of mine. He played, we went to school together. He was a dear friend of mine. And then he went back behind the camera, and Peck said, "Do you mind if we have to do one?" And he said, "Okay, you want a rehearsal? Let's do a rehearsal." So I thought he was joking. So I did a bad imitation of him, acting, thinking he'd say, "All right, settle down, let's go to work." And he went, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
And I went, "This is our first shot on a movie." And I'm going, no. I said, "Greg," because he insisted you call him by his first name. I said, "Is he kidding?" He said, "Bob, he's not kidding." "No, Bob, he's not kidding." I said, "Oh no," I wanted to leave right there. I thought, come on, I can't. That was ridiculous. You know that.
Bobby, what's in the works for you nowadays, Bob? And tell me you got a book coming. We need a book.
I know I could write a book. People will not believe me. I don't know. I've got 2 offers now that want to help me write it, but I don't know. See, when I get talking like this, it's very easy to explain certain things, and maybe with the book I'd be more detailed. I don't want to write one where I'm just scolding some bad people,
Well, that's why you get the person that's going to help you. You just talk and talk, and they put it together like a book.
Yeah, I know. But I've also written and sold. I read a screenplay and it sold.
Mhm.
And I
Cool.
read a children's book called Polar Dog. It's because I have I had a big dog. And I have one now.
I wrote a children's book.
You did?
Yes, I did. I'll have to mail it to you, and you can mail me a polar dog.
Polar Dog. It's
Yeah, and I'll
Polar
mail you.
Dog.
Mine's about the okapi or okapi. It's an animal. It looks like a giraffe/zebra.
Well, there is no such thing as a polar dog. There are polar bears. And what this is,
Right.
mine's a children's book about a little cub bear who can't stand the cold and winds up living in Woodland Hills pretending he's a dog. It's anyway, it's
Now,
cute.
Bobby, I know you wrote a movie and directed a movie. I've written it down here called Beyond Fear.
No, I didn't write that, and I can't believe my name is on it as a director because I really didn't.
Oh, did you not? Okay.
I know she's got my name on it, but I
Huh.
walked away from that because of the guy she was going with, who was producing and changing things. I said, I'm out of here.
Okay.
Oh,
Tell
wow,
us more
wow.
about that, because one thing that, there's an actor in that movie named Robert Axelrod who was in
Yes.
several Bronson movies, including Murphy's Law, and he's
That's
in
right.
that as well. Tell us more about that experience, if you don't mind.
About which one?
About that movie you were saying that your name's been taken up, Beyond Fear. Tell us more about that.
Well, Mimi studied with me. She was a martial artist, and to make this film, I may have added some things. I've done that with a lot of film. When I did Ceasefire, I added things that I wrote that people don't know. I didn't rewrite the movie, but I fixed some scenes up a little bit,
Right.
made them a little more tasty from my point of view. And it's true, like the football scene and the barroom scene where Don and I meet in the beginning of the film.
Why would they put you down as director if you didn't direct it? Because I'm looking at it here. I see
Why
it.
my
Robert F.
name?
Lyons.
They
Just
wanted
because
my-
they wanted your name? Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Well, I might have directed her on a couple of the things she did, the
Right.
training she did, but not the fight and this and that. And the guy who actually did it, I couldn't handle this guy. Just could not handle. I might have been around or advised here and there because Mimi was a good friend, but this guy, I've met people who just destroy movies. They just don't know what they're doing.
Right.
It's almost like they're going out of their way. I can't be around that. I cannot be around it. I mean, I directed a thing called Dreamers. I'll take responsibility for that. It's quite funny, in spite of the fact that the two guys who did the first version of it couldn't act because you can't teach and direct. They also teach. So I got a lot of actors out there working that I taught, and I'm very proud of that.
How's that going? How's the acting teaching going?
Not, we're picking it up now, right now. In fact, I have a class tonight with a couple of people, and I teach out of my home right now. And we're doing, if you've seen my people are putting up a thing I never had, Instagram. I don't know
Right.
if you noticed,
Mhm.
all these scenes that she's
Yeah.
putting on this Instagram. On, holy Christ, where do you get this stuff? You know?
Yeah. We need somebody like that for our program. Like I'm
That's
looking,
right.
I'm like, how's Bobby getting all these clips on Instagram?
Yeah, well,
He's
somebody's doing
84
it.
and I'm 48 and I can't do it.
Somebody's doing it. Somebody.
We need somebody.
She's wonderful, and she's out.
Yeah. Is that your wife? You got a young wife, don't you? What do you got, like a 30-year-old wife?
No, no, my wife's not my age, but she's gorgeous. And she's such.
Yeah, 69.
That's what
young.
happens when you work with Charles Bronson and Gregory Peck and people like that. You get a young, beautiful wife, Robert.
You get used to the good stuff around you.
Bobby, we'll hook you up. We're gonna hook you up with somebody. We know we got a lot of talented people in our group. We're gonna hook you up with somebody to write to help you write your book. Chris Manson, one of our guys, he said he offered to do it.
Yeah, he did. He was one
Yeah.
of the guys that said, "Hey, do you need someone?" Because
Yeah, he's a member of this show.
He's
like,
a member of our group,
yeah,
Bobby.
yeah,
okay, now it's
yeah.
off.
We have interchanging people. I'm always on. Brad's almost always on. Danny's. He just sits there looking pretty. Look, Danny, did you get a new haircut too? Did we all get haircuts before?
I got a haircut for this
I got one
today.
just for this.
Yeah, so did I. I got one yesterday.
Comb my hair. I need a haircut.
I got a haircut for you, Bobby.
Oh, thank you. Brad.
Hey, Brad, any more questions for Bobby before we go?
The only other question I wanted to ask, Bobby, is when I look at, now I know you can't believe everything on IMDb, but there's a movie out there, or there's a project of some sort called Super Strata that lists you as a member. Do you know anything about that? Is that something that's coming out now, or?
That I did.
Yeah, it lists as a project that's been completed or something like
We
that.
never finished. I've done a couple things that never finished.
Okay, and I it may be something like that. I always want to see new work. I know the last actual credit that I saw for you was in 2017. The first credit was in 65, and the last credit was 2017. Bobby, that's 52. You've been working for over 5 decades.
Yeah.
What's that? That's amazing to me. And it's just the longevity of like, doing your craft and staying focused and staying true to who you are. That amazes me. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to commend you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And you look great.
You look great, Bobby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson has nothing on you, Bobby.
Bobby, you got to try to stay in touch with us. And I'd like to send you a copy of my kid's children's book I wrote, and I'd like to get a copy of yours. I think that'd be great. And
Okay.
maybe we could have you on again. We always ask everybody, you know what I mean, if they'd like to come back on again. Everybody says, yeah, and then they don't want you to bother them.
No, no, no. I do, I do these things and, um, what do you call it? For the Bronson, who was it that did Bronson's on the Loose?
Paul
Paul
Talbot,
Talbot.
he's been on here a couple times. He's a great friend of the show.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
That was very nice. I like that because I'm mentioned in a few books. I like that.
Mhm.
Jackie Cooper, you know who Jackie Cooper was.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
He mentioned me in his book. I worked with him twice. Once as a director, once when he was the vice president or president of Screen Gems,
Mhm.
60s. Well, they tried to
Wow.
get a stable of actors together, and I was one of six. They took, I don't know how many people they went through. And they took six of us, three guys, three girls. And at the same time that they put together the Monkeys,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I did all those Screen Gem shows, and I was just starting small parts. And I Flying Nun, I did a moment.
You were on the Monkeys,
I
weren't you?
remember seeing a credit for that.
Yeah, it's just that was the silliest stuff in the world.
Did you play a professional wrestler on the Monkeys?
No, no, it was a boxer.
Boxer, okay.
Right. But it was there's a guy that directed, he was a wonderful, very funny guy, very good with comedy too. Just
Hey, let me tell you something about the Monkeys, man. Like that was out in I was born in 1975, but in the 80s, there was a whole, I don't know if Brad remembers this, but they brought them back on like USA or one of them channels, and they had a whole new craze again. Kids, all us kids were watching them. They were playing concerts on TV. I mean, they were still fairly young. They were only like in their 40s.
Hey, we didn't have cable in Toadsuck, Arkansas, Eric, so I didn't get to see that.
first of all,
This guy
people
comes from
think,
Toadsuck, Arkansas. Bob, you ever hear anything like that in your life?
no,
No.
Arkansas, no,
To-
Kansas.
Toadsuck, Arkansas.
Shut up. I played um, Clyde Barrows. We filmed in
You
Kansas.
sure did.
Yeah, we actually filmed in Kansas.
There you go. Well, you were close to us, Bobby. You were close.
I said that's as close as I've gotten there.
Yeah.
Well, come see us sometime.
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
Monkeys, people think that
Think they monkey around.
that was a band that the studio found. The studio made that band
Right. Hmm.
because we all did screen tests to get on that lot.
Yeah.
And I saw all of theirs, and then they picked those guys and put them together.
Yeah, and you know Mickey Dolenz
He's the
from
only
the
one left.
Monkees? He tried out to be Fonzie. He was almost Fonzie. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
On Happy Days?
Well, I mean that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other show.
It is.
That's why you need to come back.
10 shows right there.
Bobby, thanks for hanging with us for half an hour while we figured out the Zoom thing. And now that we got it figured out, this is what happens. I'm going to tell you what happens. We hang up, and then we go and we lay down in bed. We go, shit, I wanted to ask Bobby this or Bobby that. So I hope you'll come back on again someday. Maybe we'll do a more traditional episode where we talk about just one of the movies and we talk about the things. You know, maybe we'll have you on with somebody else from one of those other people.
Sometimes it's not that I like a lot of the movies I did. I like various scenes in various.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just
Or
love talking about movies and how they're made. Like, and it makes me appreciate even sometimes a bad movie. I'll sit there and I'll be like, I'll sit there and I'll be like, there's got to be something good here, you know, or there's got to be a learning experience here. Like I'm just so interested in.
Ceasefire was for me. I mean, I really tore that thing apart.
Mhm.
for really getting good work and
Yeah.
doing work for it. And
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a they're very bad quality they have on Tubi. I watched it on Tubi. It was like it was
Yeah.
it was worse than popping a VHS tape in, but I was but I didn't even care because like I'm not really a big on high def or any of that anyway. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought you were great in it. You stole the movie. I didn't really find Don Johnson that endearing in it, really. It's kind of
well, that when we were down,
Linda Blount was nice.
Lisa Blount, she was
Lisa, is it Lisa Blount? Lisa
Yes,
Blount.
Lisa. She's from Arkansas, by the way.
Oh yeah.
she
Yeah,
was a
she's
student.
from Arkansas.
She was a
Toad? Is she from
student.
Toadsuck, Arkansas?
She's not from Toadsuck, but she is from Arkansas.
What about
She's
Bug
a-
Scuttle?
She was wonderful. She died too young.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Her
many
and her
people have.
husband lived.
She was
Her and
one
her
of my
husband, Ray
students.
McKinnon. Go ahead, Bobby.
She was wonderful in Gentlemen, in the thing with Deborah Winger and Richard Gere.
Officer and a gentleman.
Yeah. Oh, she was great in that.
And she
Mhm.
was a hell of a student. She was very good in class.
Okay.
She was a pro. She wanted to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, fellas, thank you very much for
Ah.
asking me on. I really appreciate it.
Bobby, we're not
Thank you.
worthy. We are not worthy. Thank you so much.
No, don't do that.
I'm sorry I fanboyed out too much early, Bobby. I can't imagine I'm getting to talk to one of my
big one.
heroes from
This
Charles
is a big one
Bronson,
for us.
so
Yeah, this is a big one for both of us.
this is
so.
big for us.
Well, I'm glad that we can have some fun and,
Yeah. Well,
Appreciate
thank you, Bobby. And
Thank
you've
you,
been-
Bobby.
You've been listening to This Week in Charles Bronson. Good night.